New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. And good morning, dear ones. Dr. Robert with you here on the New Thought Media Network. It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and that means it's time for our Saturday Science of Mind and Spirit conversations. Those that are regulars around here, you know that we have a whole host of characters and wonderful colleagues that share on the science of mind, and Ernest Holmes specifically, and more. And here it is. We're near the end of the year, and we're running out of Saturdays in 2024. So I'm really grateful to be with you here today. And a big shout out to Rev Elzia Sekou, Rev Z from CSL Denver, and all over the world planet for sharing last week's message and for supporting us there. Now, one of the things that we do, we run through in the beginning of the year, and starting in just a few weeks, we'll be starting up again with the Science of Mind textbook by Ernest Holmes. And this whole program is born out of the idea that we start the year, go back to basics, and look at the Science of Mind textbook so that we can get grounded. Start the year with the book. There we go. That looks a little bit better, doesn't it? Start the year with a reminder of what this philosophy is all about. Now, the Science of Mind textbook doesn't last 52 years because we go chapter by chapter. We don't just... And so when we run out of chapters in the Science of Mind textbook, we turn to the Science of Mind archives. And we love our friends over at the Science of Mind Archives. We encourage you to go visit them, and you can learn so much about the history of New Thought and a deeper understanding of New Thought and Science of Mind as a part of the New Thought movement. Anyway, so we go and we find resources from the archives, and we love to share those with you. Now, all of our programming is archived in a playlist on our YouTube channel, which makes it easy for you to find all kinds of great talks and deeper conversations around various information from the archives, from the textbook. And today, as I was contemplating what to talk about or what to pull up today, and I looked at the archives last night a little bit, and as I was flipping through, I found Creative Minded Success. And I thought, well, I don't need the archives for this. I've got a copy of that right back there on that bookshelf. And so I went and I pulled it off my bookshelf. This is my copy. I got this somewhere in probably 2001 or so. For those, and I'm going to just kind of go through some highlights and chat a little bit about some of what's in here, because this book itself is over 100 years old at this moment. The original edition was written in 1919. This edition that I'm going to read from today was written in 1957, is the re-edition of this. And I want to read a little bit from Ernest himself. He wrote the foreword for this edition of the book, and I want to read a little bit of that for everybody. This foreword is being written in 1957 for the 19th printing of this little book. I have just reread it, probably for the first time since it originally appeared in 1919. And as I read, I contemplated what changes might have occurred in my thinking during these 38 years, what revisions I might make in the manuscript if I were writing it today. There were few. I love here. Nailed it, right? The truth is ageless, timeless, changeless. We may have modified our technique slightly, and Holmes uses a capital T, truth, there, by the way. Those that know, those that have followed along on this before, we talk about this a lot. Holmes at the time used a capital letter to define or point towards the divine, the ultimate, the infinite, the God. So truth is ageless, timeless, changeless. We may have modified our technique slightly, for we certainly should make improvements in nearly 4 decades of experience with the law of mind and action. For example, we no longer hold thoughts. This is 1957, and Ernest is saying we no longer hold thoughts. I see it all the time. Social, I'll hold thoughts for, thoughts and prayers. It's the same thing, holding thoughts. We no longer hold thoughts. We think positive thoughts and then release them, charged with the spiritual energy of faith, into the universal mind, which is common to all. Neither do we use the power of will to set the law in motion. We use our given power of choice, either to use the law constructively or destructively. And I think that is that, to me, it's highlighted, bulleted, I'm circled with arrows on this and this is only this is only him saying, I want to clarify something here a little bit. We do not hold thoughts. We think positive energy, and we use our power of choice. We do not use the power of will. We use the power of choice, either to use the law constructively or destructively. Everybody raise your hand if you're using the law constructively. Everybody raise your hand if you know somebody that's using the law or appears to be using the law destructively. We know those people that hold thoughts of themselves as limited, rather than thinking positive thoughts of how they can go beyond the limits. We all know people that hold thoughts that they are broken, rather than thinking thoughts that they are whole, complete, and perfect, and moving forward in life. And we are at choice in that. Okay. Feeling fired up. Feeling fired up today. And if I do that, for everything I find in this book, we're not going to get through it. One of the things, and I'm not trying to get through this book today, by the way. I'm going to drop in and I'm going to pick out some places that stand out for me as we move through this book. Please, by the way, remember, if you have comments, if you'd like to join the conversation on what we are chatting about here, I know some of you in the audience have a physical copy of the book. I'll do my best to point out where we are. I did leave a link in the description of the show where you can go to the archives and pick up your own copy of this book. It's $8 in a PDF form, or if you are a member of the archives, and I cannot stress this enough, one of the most valuable subscriptions I have in my life is my subscription to the archives. It's $10 a month. It gives you 20 different things, 20 downloads a month for $10. And 20 of these $8 books for $10, or whatever, all the resources that are there. It is amazing. Excuse me. So feel free to chat along, chime along, join in as we go along, and as we explore some of this stuff. So, and I was struck. One of the other things I was struck about was, as I started looking at this, I'm like, I got a lot of notes in this book, and a lot of them point to various parts of what used to be called Prac 2. At one time, it was part of the professional practitioner training for the United Centers for Spiritual Living, which is where I got my practitioner license, and quite a few passages in this book relate to various study questions and aspects that we used in that curriculum at that time. So there's a lot of, that's what I love about this. The deeper you dig into the work of Science of Mind and Ernest Holmes, the more is revealed. So, okay, this is on page 5. By the activity of our thought, things come into our life, and we are limited because we have not known the truth. We have thought that outside things controlled us, when all the time we have had that within us, which could have changed everything and given us freedom from bondage. He's talking about that awakening, that voice of truth, that understanding of the truth that has always been in us and gives us freedom. And then over on page 6, under this would be the second paragraph, freedom comes to the individual from understanding the laws of life and conforming to them, thereby subjecting them to use, to the end of health, happiness, and success. Freedom comes to the individual when we understand the law of creation, the laws of life, and conforming to them. We are more free when we understand gravity than when we don't. We're more free when we understand electricity than when we don't. We are more free when we understand the creative process and how that works. We are more free when we understand that by the use of affirmative prayer and other spiritual practices, we come to a greater belief. It's not right here, but something I was reading recently by Holmes reminded us that it is as much, it is not just what we think, but it is what we believe. So yeah, what we think about, we bring about, but that's an easy phrase. It's really what we think about develops our beliefs, and it is our beliefs that we demonstrate. Over on page 7, near the bottom, in your life, you are the cause. There is nothing but mind, and nothing moves except as mind moves it. We have agreed that while God is love, yet your life is governing absolutely by mind or law. You are the cause. I love it. Okay, so let me find the next one I had marked here for today. A lot of what the first half of this book is in many ways explanations of various principles and various aspects of how it works. The second half, or the second part of the book, so the first part is the instruction. The second part is the actual taking action of it, the practice of it. And that's where we're going to spend a good portion of our time today, although there are a couple things I want to touch on as we get there. So we're going to spend most of our time here in the second half of this book today talking about the practice of it. However, before we get there, let's go to page number 40 under the title of Action. Now, God can, there's a little gender, we're going to do a little gender neutralizing in this here. God can do for us only what we will allow, only as we allow God to do through us. God can do for us only as we will allow it to do through us. Now, there is that sense that, right, there is that we want to remember that the inherent truth is God can do all. The power of the presence and the intelligence, not some far off being. The power of the presence and the intelligence can do all, but it cannot do in our lives what we do not allow. So we have to allow that which it is that we desire. Intelligence gives us ideas, and our turn, we work on them. But our work is no longer done in any sense of doubt or fear, for we know that we are dealing with something that is that never makes a mistake. We proceed with a calm confidence, born of the inner trust, in a power that is infinite. I think sometimes we get lost allowing the word God to substitute for power, presence, and intelligence, the omnis, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent. And that can get a little mixed up and muddy because it's real easy to kind of slip into that God as some thing that casts an energy down. The power, we proceed with a calm confidence born of the inner trust in a power that is infinite everywhere. Behind all of our movements then is a great purpose: to let the law work through us. I cannot count how many times I have heard Holmes in his own way telling us not to be an obstruction to the law, not to get in the way of the law. We must comply with the law of activity. We must be willing to take the way of outer activity. Jesus went to the tomb of Lazarus. We may have to go, but there will accompany us something that never fails. So he gets a little bit on us there at the end. It helps. We must comply with the law of action. That which we put into the law will take shape and form. Has to. Cannot be denied. Through the creative process, that which we put into the law must manifest. Over on 41, there must be mental alertness before there can be physical activity. Must be mental alertness before there can be physical activity. I was driving. I was on a way to do an errand a day or so ago, and I live in this neighborhood. And in our neighborhood, there's a couple of blind where the streets come together. There's a couple of blind corners because people have parked cars on the various corners and this and that and things. And as I'm coming, and I have the right of way, somebody's coming out of the side street, doesn't see me, and is starting to turn in front of me. And a vehicle is a great place to remember we have to have mental alertness. And I was mentally alert. I wasn't zoning out. I wasn't playing with the stereo. I wasn't trying to grab something in the back seat. If any of those things had been happening, I probably would have a big, huge dent on the side of my vehicle, because they never saw me, but I saw them and was able to swerve and was able to get out of the lane. Now, we weren't going very fast, so it's not like it would have been a horrendous crash if they had hit me. But the mental alertness has to precede the physical activity. What do you want in your life? You want a new relationship? You got to get the mental alertness of what a relationship requires and what you're willing to commit to a relationship. You want more money in your life? You have to have a mental alertness to the money that's in your life and around, and that money is constantly flowing into and out of your life in order to create the increase, to see the physical activity. Oh, here's a good one. Ideas of the infinite. This is on page 43. Suppose that we wish to draw from the universal mind some definite idea, some guidance, some information, some leading. What should I do, God? How are we going to do this? And see, that's that place where, see how easy it is to fall back into putting God up on a pedestal that has all the answers and is going to just say, oh, go do this. No. We have to be mentally aware to what's happening around us, what is calling us. Where do we get how are we going? First, we must be convinced that we can do it, whatever it is. There it is. When a great thought springs up in the mind of an individual, then a great poem is written. When a great work of art is wrought, but by some receptive artist, it is simply a sign that the veil is thin between. He has caught a glimpse of reality. Throughout all of Holmes's philosophy, he also speaks that we are each have the capacity to be a great revealer of truth. Not that we will be, not that we have to be, but that we all have that capacity to be a great revealer of truth as we live in close indwelling contact with the divine, with the absolute. Correction. I could very easily write a great poem, but that's not the me. That's me. See, each person also, now this is on page 45, each person within their own soul is in direct communication with the infinite understanding, with the infinite wisdom. So I could say, let's write a great poem and be in the stillness and be in the silence. And I could be a vessel for allowing a great poem to come through. However, I find for me, it's a different form of art. Think of musicians. Musicians, while they're capable of creating a song in any genre, they each gravitate to one or two maybe genres of their own, and that is where they stay. Beyonce is trying to become a country and western artist. Okay. She has access and capability to the art of music in a way, and her truth, her great talent is in the allowing of the divine to flow through her, rather than saying, no, I got to be a pop artist and I got to stay a pop artist. You want to write a book? Write a book. You want to be a poet? Be a poet. Bottom of page 46. When you want to do a big thing, get the mental pattern. Make it perfect. Know just what it means. Enlarge your thought. Keep it to yourself. Pass it over to the creative power behind all things. Wait and listen. Excuse me. And when the impression comes, follow it with assurance. Don't talk to anyone about it. Never listen to negative talk or pay any attention to it, and you will succeed where others have failed. Now, and I have a note there that says treat for it. When you want to do a big thing, get the mental pattern and make it perfect. I'm reminded of an artist, Eric Hansen. He has left this earthly plane, and he had a lung disease, alpha A. And he told a story of how when he was talking to the doctors, they tried to explain what his lungs would look like if he could see them, and it all came down to he couldn't imagine it. And he finally asked the doctors, what would healthy lungs look like? And they said broccoli. He said, that I can grasp onto. And until the end of his days, he kept pictures of broccoli around his house and around his life so that he could always create this mental pattern of what he really wanted to have his lungs look like. It was a form of treatment. Not a verbal form of treatment. That's okay. It's still a form of treatment. Get the mental pattern. Make it perfect. Know what it means. Enlarge your thought. And here's the one where Holmes and others may differ. He says keep it to yourself. So there is a belief within New Thought that when we're doing big work, we don't tell anybody about it. We don't tell, it's been said, you don't tell God how big your problems are. You tell your problems how big your God is. We've been taught to keep it to ourselves, or maybe speak to a practitioner or a minister about it. I think there's a both and here for me. It kind of depends on what the big thing is. If you have cancer, if you've been diagnosed with a health challenge, and I think this is where this comes from, because at this time in 1919, the biggest concern for most was health and healing, physical. You don't want to share your big idea, your big healing with someone that may not believe. And I imagine most of us have been there. Maybe as children, perhaps as adults, we have a grand idea, something we want to present and something we want to do and something we believe in, and we go to someone and we tell them about it and they just poo-poo all over us. Oh, that'll never work. Oh, you can't do that. Oh. The Eeyores out there in the world. We want to make sure we keep our big ideas from those, from that energy, from that physical, from that humanish response. However, if you have people in your life that you know are with you and are going to be, that are your cheerleaders, that are your mentors, that are your supporters, that are your believers, that are with you, then by all means, let them know what you're doing, because the collective yes is more powerful than the individual yes. And the more people that are collectively in agreement with a vision, the more rapidly it can happen. New Thought Media Network is a demonstration of that. And if I had kept this under my hat, all puns intended, if I had kept this under my hat for the last 4 years, we wouldn't be here. If we don't sometimes have some big, loud ideas that we don't know what we're going to do, let's jump ahead just a little. Page 54. This is also used in that Practitioner 2 curriculum, and it's part of why I wanted to bring it forward. Transcending previous conditions. So we have a big idea. Maybe we tried something like that before. Maybe it didn't work. Maybe it crashed and burned. Maybe you wrote a book and it sat on a shelf. We have the power to transcend previous conditions. What if at times we attract something that we do not want? What about all the things that we have already attracted into our lives? Must we still suffer until the last farthing be paid? Are we bound by karma? Holmes here says yes. In a certain degree, we are bound by what we have done. It is impossible to set law in motion and not have it produce. We are bound by what we have done. We're bound by what we have demonstrated as well. We'll come around to that. Yes, and in a certain degree, we are bound by what we have done. It is impossible to set law in motion and not have it produce. What we sow, we must also reap. And that there is no doubt, but there is something to think about. The Bible also says that if one repents, their sins are blotted out and remembered no more forever. If one repents, wow. Now that is a loaded word if I've ever heard one. If one repents, sins are blotted out and remembered no more forever. Now, I want to pull us back, and this is an advanced group, I know, so you've all heard this. A sin is nothing more than missing the mark. A sin is nothing more than missing the mark. It is not a direct ticket to hell, if we even believed in hell, other than the hell of our own making, but that's another story too. When we, so Holmes continues. We have two statements which at first seem to agree. The first says that we must suffer from what we have done, and the second that under certain conditions we will not have to suffer. What are those conditions? What is it we repent? A changed attitude toward the law. It means that we must stop thinking and acting in the wrong way. So what is the repent? Change your thinking. The dear Bob Newhart would say, stop it. Stop doing that. Stop reinforcing your own limiting beliefs. I understand it takes time and practice, and I can hear those that are saying, well, it's not that easy, Robert. And it can be. The fact that the belief that it is not that easy is what keeps it from being easy. How about if we believe that it was easy to stop a thought? Let's try it. Think about the last time you were in your car, and think about turning on the key to your car. And now think about what radio, and stop. Just stop thinking about that. Every time a thought comes up, we can say, stop it. I'm going to stop thinking about this. Well, I'm concerned because I haven't heard from this guy that I like, or this girl that I'm in, this person I want to be with. Stop. Well, I'm not sure if there's going to be enough money when we get to the end of the month. Stop. Stop the stinking thinking. That's an Eddie Watkins song, right? The first says that a changed attitude, it means we must stop thinking and acting in the wrong way. What is the wrong way? The wrong way is anything that is a destructive use of the law. If it's a positive use of the law, a productive use of the law, then that's not a concern. We have to stop the negativity and empower the positivity. All right, let's get into the practice. Part 2. I've taken more time here than I had intended. That's okay. I also want to say, I think we are entering a time where it's now more important than ever that we have practitioners of this philosophy. Yes, there is a track, and there is a way to an educational track to become, quote, a professional practitioner with Centers for Spiritual Living. I'm not talking about that. If you'd like to know more about that, contact me directly. I'll be happy to get you in touch with the right resources and the people that have the most up-to-date information on what that educational program looks like. What I'm talking about is a little more of a grassroots. You are already a practitioner just by the fact that you found yourself in this room, and you may only be practicing for yourself right now, and that's where we start. A good practitioner does not try to support, help, or work with others until they have demonstrated in their own lives. So we start with ourselves, and it is a constant process from there. Okay, so page 63. The way to give a treatment is, first of all, to absolutely believe you can. Believe that your word goes forth into a real creative power, which at once takes it up and begins to operate upon it. Feel that this power, all things are possible. If you catch any of our prayer programs, you hear me say, this law is already operating upon this prayer. The law operates upon our beliefs and our words, even if we don't say them. So when we're in the midst of a prayer, in the midst of a treatment, the law is already operating upon that, taking that up. It is never safe to treat for anything that you do not wish to happen. That means that you would want, this means that what you would want for another, you must first be willing to receive for yourself. So much goodness in here. All the practitioner has to do is convince themselves to know, to believe that the thing will happen. One of the first things then is to be definite, to have a mental likeness of the thing you desire, to know exactly what you want. Is why teenagers, what are you doing tonight? I don't know. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. What's going on Tuesday? I don't know. Do you have a boyfriend? I don't know. Do you have a girlfriend? I don't know. We have to move into that place that says, that is beyond the I don't know. There is that within you which does know what you want. And that's the question I like to ask. When someone says, well, I don't really know. Okay. But if you did know, what do you want? What do you want in your life? Put it in the chat box. What do you really want? Get definitive. You want $10,000 a month or more? Would you like 10K? Keep a mental reminder. I had my kid print this for me on her 3D printer. That's not just a goal, that's a mental reminder. I want to be at a point where I'm bringing in 10K or more. Not a bad place to be, right? And when that becomes obsolete, when we've demonstrated that, when I've demonstrated that, then I can change that. And I can put a different mental reminder in front of me. One of the first things then is to be definite, to have a mental likeness of the thing that you desire, to know exactly what you want. We sit down with our own souls, at peace with the world, at peace with ourselves. We realize that we're dealing with something that is a reality, something that cannot fail. The law cannot fail. Our word cannot return void. Shay's getting definite. Health and well-being so I can be fully available to serve. My greatest prayer. God is my goal. Amen. Shay's getting definitive. Thank you, Shay. Continuing on page 64. The inner human is always in immediate connection with the infinite of understanding. There is no delay in our ability, in our access. There may be a delay in our understanding of the message, but this is where ask and it shall be given. Ask the question and the question shall be answered. Ask and it shall be given. My understanding of the answer may not be fully clear, but there is no delay. God does not put us on hold. The divine has no mechanism. It's an infinite power, presence, and intelligence. There is no limit to it. It has no mechanism to delay or deny our petition. It has no way of saying it cannot deny our request, our voice, our word, our prayer. It will demonstrate there is sometimes a delay in my understanding. Oh, that is what I prayed for, isn't it? The first thing to do when we wish a greater understanding is to be still and listen to the inner voice, to withdraw for a few moments into the silence of the soul, taking here what we already know and realizing that a greater intelligence is enlarging it. Now, I know that my perception of this philosophy is skewed, and I believe in a positive way towards, I think Holmes was on the seed of what we now call visioning and what I now call meditative inquiry. And I think Holmes was on the seed of that and was truly bringing that forward, even though he didn't have the same terms for it. And Michael Beckwith came along and made life visioning a popular modality, a very popular and a very effective practice for helping us to get to and reveal the truth of who we are and who we've come here to be. And it's in here that I start to hear that type of language. The first thing to do when we wish a greater understanding is to be still and listen to the inner voice. To withdraw for a few moments into the silence of the soul, taking what we already know and realizing that a greater intelligence is enlarging it. What is the highest vision for my life? What do I need to release? What do I need to embrace? Often, and this is page 65, how to know what just to do. Often we find ourselves confronted by a problem of how to begin. We're not sure what we want to do. We see no way to begin anything. We see nothing to begin. Find ourselves in this position, humanly speaking, not knowing where to turn. Then of all the times we must be quiet and listen. Then of all the times we must trust that the same power that started all things will also start us in the right road. For without some superior power, we shall surely fail. Seek first the stillness. We must realize there is something that wants to respond, to make manifest. And in this realization, wait for the idea. It may not come at first, but we must be patient, never doubting and waiting. Thus, in faith, it will come. Many of you here have heard the story of how New Thought Media Network came to be through my 30-day visioning quest in the early part of 2020. When humanly I had no clue what we were about to go into. I was not paying that much attention to what was about to happen in the world. And as I read back in these sections, something wanted to respond. There was that within me that so wanted something to respond. And it was being cajoled and mentored into sitting in the silence in a deeper and deeper way that I began to once again hear the voice of the divine, dropping the hints, leaving the clues. On page 67, there is a power that simply awaits our recognition of it, to spring into our thought as an unfailing leading, an unerring guidance. To those who lean on the ever outstretched arms of the infinite, life is big with limitless possibilities. We are cradled in the strong arms of the infinite. Lean into that. Rely on that. Something beyond, this is also still on page 67, something beyond our intelligence is doing the thing through us, and we must do nothing to contradict it. Don't ever doubt. Don't ever doubt what is happening through you, as you. Great humans are the ones who get a vision and then go to work to make it come true, never looking to one side, but with one-pointedness and calm determination, stick to the thing until it is accomplished. Never hesitate to trust in that inner leading. We must be very clear in our thought, sending out only such thought as we wish manifested in our condition. Unless we are working with people who think as we do, we had better be working alone. I love that one. Man, if we're not working with people that are like-minded, it's easier to go alone. Now, what I also know is through experience, it's much better to find a group of people that think together and think alike than to actually go it alone. And so what I hear that is don't get attached to the opinions of the critics and the contradictors. Don't put weight in those that can't see your vision. If somebody isn't a yes, go for it. You don't need them. They're not necessary. There'll be somebody to fill that role on your team or in your vision. Unless we are working with people who think as we do, we do not have to leave the world in order to control our thought, but we do have to learn that we can stay right in the world and still think just what we want to think, regardless of what others are thinking. It is a great help to realize mentally that at all times, a great stream of thought and power is operating through us. It is constantly going into our mind where it is taken up and acted upon. Our business is to keep that stream of thought just where we want it to be ready at any time to act when the impulse comes for action. Our action must never be negative. It must always be affirmative. For we are dealing with something that cannot fail. We may fail to realize, but the power in itself is infinite and cannot fail. Keep the thought clear and never worry about the way that things seem to be going. Folks, if I've learned anything in the last 20 years of being a part of this movement, this philosophy, and often, in many ways, it's all summed up right here. In the last analysis, we are just what we think ourselves to be. This is on page 84, the final word. In the last analysis, we're just what we think ourselves to be. We will attract to ourselves what we think most about. We can learn to govern our own destiny when we learn to control our thoughts. In order to do this, we must first realize that everything in the manifest universe is the result of some interactivity of divine mind. This mind is God, producing a universe by the activity of God's own divine thoughts. We are in the middle. We are in this divine mind as a thinking center. And what we think about governs our lives, even as God's thought governed the universe, by setting in motion all the cosmic activities. Do a little bit of gender neutralization there. My apologies. The seed that falls into the ground shall bear fruit of its own kind, and nothing shall hinder it. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. Creative Minded Success. This is one of these easy little books to hand out. There's a couple more there too on my shelf that we like to hand out. But more important than spreading this message, I think, is living this message. Living this message that science of mind is a part of the New Thought message. And the science of mind and Ernest's work, and we dedicate these Saturday mornings to Ernest's work. And we dedicate other parts of our programming schedule to the works of others. And I would love to see a team, and I'm on this team because I've invested 20 years in reading Holmes's work and decipher and comparing this to that and learning and practicing, but most importantly, living it. I know there's a team of people out there somewhere that could do this same thing for the work of the Fillmores and the Unity movement. And I would love to see that program here on our network. The New Thought movement as a whole, I believe, has the power to, and it's more than a belief. It's a deep assurance that as collectively, we have the power to shape the coming decades of human experience towards the positive, towards the helpful in the beginning and the growing and the building. And as more and more of us come to live this in our workplaces, in our relationships, in our travels, well, that's how we create a world that works for all. We come to understand it. We come to study it. I am always coming to a deeper understanding of this through a deeper study of this, but mostly through a deeper application of this stuff. A few years back, I heard something that's been attributed to Dr. Johnny Coleman, and my understanding is she may have gotten it from the 12-step movement, or maybe they got it from her. I don't know. But in referring to the New Thought philosophy, the metaphysics of the science of mind and the unity and all of it, and divine science and religious science, whatever name we give it, at the heart of it, it works if you work it. With a little over 20 years hanging out around centers for spiritual living and United Churches and all kinds of places, I can definitively say it works because I've been working it. And I know you have that within you as well. I want to thank you for being with us today. Someone new on the stream, Andrea, and so it is. Good to see you, dear one. Thank you for being with us. Dear Shay, always good to see you, dear one. We're here every Saturday, 9 a.m. Back next week with Barbara Jean, Reverend Barbara Jean from CSL Toronto will be with us next week, and she'll be wrapping up our annual trek through the work of Ernest Holmes in the Science of Mind archives. So be here with us for that, please. The week after that, I will be back for the very first Saturday in January, and then we'll start the textbook with the second week in January. We'll start with the first chapter of the introduction. We'll go chapter by chapter, and I get to have some fun to get it all set up, and then we get launched back into the book. Lots of good, fun things coming up, folks. One or two things I really would like you to know about before we sign off today. Over the New Year holiday, I am doing a 4-day visioning festival. It's 3 opportunities a day, and I'm trying to find my promo image to show you what that is. It's 3 opportunities each day. There it is, 7 a.m., noon Mountain Time, and 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Join us for a visioning experience. These are going to be great, great times. 90-minute sessions, 3 times a day, 4 days, 12 sessions total. Attend one or all. We'd love to see you at any of our visioning sessions. It's going to be a good changeover of the year. So thanks again for being with us, dear ones. My name's Dr. Robert. Please, if today is your day to make a financial contribution to the network, you can do so over at our website, ntmedia.org. And remember, it is thanks to our donors and our sponsors and individual donors that we're able to bring forward these messages and this type of programming. We're going to take one more minute to say thank you to those folks. So please don't go away. Stick around. Help us recognize our organizational sponsors and individual donors. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Holmes Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. Yes, thank you to everyone that makes this network possible. All right, I'm out of here for now. I trust you're going to have a great Saturday. Stay tuned on New Thought Radio. Remember, New Thought Radio over on our website at 10:30 Mountain Time, starting in just about a half an hour. Terry Paul Choice and her radio program, Feel the Flow. It's a great experience. Check out the radio station when you get a chance. I'm Dr. Robert. Until next time, I wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.